Hey everyone, Scott Hansen here from NFL Red Zone. I hope you're checking out 1 hour of 5 Yard Rush, one of the best podcasts on NFL football in the UK.
Yo, what's happening, Rush Nation? Can't believe it. Week 15, the fantasy football playoffs start tomorrow. That's right, tomorrow. Last game of the week is tonight, which means as of tomorrow, unless you're playing an 8-team league and you've got another week to go, which I know some of you do, and that's okay. We will be in the fantasy football playoffs, and this season has absolutely flown by. I say every single year, but this one it's been a grind. I don't think I've ever created as much content as I have this year, but it definitely has been a great year, and it has gone really quickly. And there's just a couple of weeks to go. We're literally only standing on the last 21 days of the fantasy football season, and that's not long. So we have to finish strong and work together. And this waiver wire does have a couple of players who potentially can help you out. Now, if you've listened to the podcast of the last week or two, I've been talking about changing your strategy, changing your benches. So a lot of these picks come with that in mind. Don't forget they're all still players who are under 30% owned. That is the standard. I'm not going to really be talking about fab anymore because the fab budget is kind of gone. Most players will either be out of fab or there'll be a little bit left, and it's a bit hard to kind of work out who's got what fab left. But I will make some suggestions through the show, but really it's a bit difficult to talk about fab the rest of the way now. So we'll see where we get to. So we'll start with quarterback, and two options this week. The first is Jimmy Garoppolo, 13.8% owned. He has Atlanta this week, which is a fantastic matchup. He's been very consistent. 6 outings of his last 7 have been at least 16-ish points or over. He's got a 27-point outing in there. He's got 2 20-point outings in there. So it is thin for under 30% owned. I would have suggested, grabbing Taysom Hill. But we look at what we got left. Jimmy Garoppolo has a great schedule. He's really getting the ball to George Kittle really, really well now. So Jimmy Garoppolo, for me, I'm looking at if I need a backup quarterback for the rest of the season, Jimmy Garoppolo is probably the guy under 30% owned I'd go after, although I would say Taysom Hill is your other bet if he's free in leagues. If both of those are gone, for whatever reason, Justin Fields is the next man up, 15.4% owned. He has Minnesota in week 15. He has improved a few games now over 200 yards, and he's getting 45 yards rushing or above now in games. So he's been a little bit more consistent. So the way I look at it is if you can get 40 yards rushing on the ground, 200 yards passing, that's 12 points. Get yourself 2 TDs, and that's 20 points minimum, as long as you don't throw those picks. So should be a good path for him to get to north of 16, but 20 points as well, which is what I look for. But I would still go Garoppolo over him. Running backs, this is your potential league winner out here right now. It's Rashad Penny. We talked about him last week, 5.7% owned. He has the Rams in week 15. He had a phenomenal day, 16 for 137 and 2 on Sunday. And it looks like he's going to carry this job for the rest of the season. Don't forget, he's a former first-round pick drafted by the team here. So it's not like he's walked off the street like a few of these other guys. Yes, Adrian Peterson is ill or injured and he's on the practice squad. There's a little bit there we need to worry about. But I still think Penny is the guy. I still think he's going to get the majority of the workload. I think if you've got any fab left, dump it all on Penny. I can't find a better bet right now between now and the end of the season. It's not a great week. He has the Rams this week. It will be a struggle, but his final 2 games of the season are the Bears and the Detroit Lions. I almost said Detroit Tigers in baseball, which is a phenomenal way to end your season for the fantasy playoffs. So Rashawn Penny, dump all your fab on him. Ty Johnson is another man we can talk about here. 23.3% owned. He has Miami in week 15, which is a pretty decent matchup. He's been very wasteful of opportunities, but I'm looking at just the fact that he has an opportunity. A lot of guys down on this roster. There's just not many guys left on this roster that can play the position, and that just is arrow up for him going forward. So that's why I'd be leaning towards Ty Johnson. Here's a little bonus one. I'm going to talk about him on tonight's flagship show, but I've left him out of the article because I want to reward the people who listen to the content, not just read the article. So, and it's Craig Reynolds. Craig Reynolds, Detroit, pretty much owned nowhere. No one. I'll be honest, I don't think I'd heard much of him prior to Sunday, and he has the opportunity now to potentially get a role. I'm not sure DeAndre Swift gets back this season, and I don't know why you would play him. And he seems to have usurped Jefferson and the other running backs on this roster, except for maybe Jamal Williams. So I would expect Craig Reynolds to have some form of role going forward. Punch a ticket, it's a lottery, and I would definitely be trying to cash on him and see what happens. Wide receiver, talked about KJ Osborne last week on this show. 26.5% owned. He definitely delivered Thursday Night Football, 383 and 1, but he had the 9 targets. That's what's key. I do think it's going to be feeling out again, potentially with this ankle injury, and therefore I expect Osborne to be heavily targeted. So again, he's sort of a 1-week play here, but he's well worth spending some fab on. I'm around to say Brown, 10.5% owned. Talked about him again last week as well. He comes off and a day of 8 for 73 off 12 targets, again heavily targeted. I expect him to be very busy over the last couple of weeks, especially as you're looking at Goff potentially fighting for his NFL career. And Gabriel Davis is 2.5% owned, and there's an injury to Emmanuel Sanders. He's not looked right the last few weeks. He went out early in the game against the Buccaneers. Davis has stepped up. He got promoted to the starting role. Touchdowns in back-to-back games. Now, I'm not sitting here projecting him to have a huge upside, but I do think he's flex worthy and should be owned, certainly more than 2.5%. And I want any pieces of teams that are going to be battling for the playoffs, and they're in the 7th seed right now, so they're going to be battling for the rest of the season. They have high-powered offenses, throw the ball quite considerably, good quarterback attached to them. And Gabe Davis has all of those. So I'll take any piece of that Buffalo offense I can get. Tight end, CJ Uzuma, 11.2% owned. Just for me, he's probably the only one now that's worth owning that's left. He just has a really good schedule, really kind schedule coming in for the rest of the season. So he's the one I would want. I can expect him to get a minimum of 6 targets a game. So I don't really want him as a like a full-blown like asset, like in terms of I'm starting him, but I want him as my backup tight end. He's scheduled to end the season as Denver, Baltimore, Kansas City, pretty kind for tight ends. So have him as your backup, and if you get a close contact on a Kittle or on a Kelsey, for example, then Zuma's your guy. Kicker got Mike Badgley. Who else would I go with? Let's be honest, his ownership has tanked to 6.6% because he was on a buy. People have tanked him. I'm definitely more than happy to go and get all shares of Mike Badgley. He's only missed 1 field goal in the entire time he's been with the Colts. Very consistent. Again, high-powered offense, scoring lots of points. And he's got New England. They will hold that offense to field goal opportunities. He's kicking indoors. Pick up Mike Badgley this week. You should feel pretty good. DST have gone out on the limb. I got this horribly wrong in week 1. I'm doubling down on the mistake again. So I'm going with the Jacksonville Jaguars, 2.8% owned. It's very thin under 30% owned. Right, that's my excuse. I still would be picking up the Tennessee Titans. That would be the defense I'd be looking to get if they are free. Hopefully you've been listening to me and be hammering those picks, but they are 43% owned. So Jacksonville it is. They play Houston. I'm picking on Houston. Sorry. Other than the Jets, it's the only other defense that's under 30% owned. I just don't want any part of them. And I do think Jacksonville, that D hasn't been that bad. It's been the offense that's really let them down. So I do think they'll get on the field a lot. They'll get some work, and they could potentially force some turnovers on Davis Mill and company. So that's where I'm going with it. But that'll do it for your Waiver Wire show. Tune in to the flagship show in just a little bit, and I look forward to seeing you all on the other side. But until then, Rush Nation, as always, don't forget,